Hello everybody, my dear friends, clients, astrology lovers, my followers, the followers of my channel. Here is Olga from sunny Costa Rica, and I have a special video for you today. I will not analyze weekly transits, but I would like to talk today about the retrograde phase of Mercury that will last from the 3rd of December until the 23rd of December 2017. Before to talk about the loop, the retrograde phase of Mercury, retrograde loop, I would like to remind you briefly the symbolism of the planet, and I would start with the following. Do you remember, for those who know, the astrological symbol of Mercury? How do we draw it? Why do we draw exactly this and not something else? There are three parts in the graphic, some astrological graphic symbol, right? The ring in itself, alone, right, without these two parts, the ring with the dot in the middle, this is the astrological symbol of the sun, right? The ring of the spirit, the consciousness, the sun in astrology. The crescent of the soul is the astrological symbol of the moon, which represents our subconsciousness, the past life experience. And the cross is the symbol of the material world, and is at the same time the graphic symbol of the earth, the material world, right? So if you look at this astrological graphic symbol of Mercury, we can make the conclusion that the crescent of the soul is bound to the cross of the material world by means or thanks to or through the ring of the spirit. In other words, the spirit connects the soul and the material world through or thanks to this astrological symbol, which contains three parts, of Mercury. Mercury ties subconsciousness and consciousness and the material world. I will make a separate video about the planet maybe later. This was just a brief reminder, okay, about the astrological graphic symbol of Mercury. Now, if we get back to the more explicit information, about the functions of the planet. I remind you that the orbital cycle of Mercury is 88 days, and the retrograde cycle happens every 4th month, and retrograde cycle lasts for 3 weeks. Mercury embodies the following notions: messenger, communicator, also our ability to reason and logic. Of course, Mercury symbolizes communication, transmission of information, movement, motion, skills, and of course, language skills, thinking, speaking, writing, and reading. How does Mercury manifest all these notions that are particular to it? Mercury establishes or links or ties between different concepts. It builds bridges over abysses. It helps us to express our intelligence or our intellect through skills. It's like to apply theoretical knowledge or the potential skills and talents in a practical life, but through skills. When we learn doing something, for example, when we learn another language, foreign language, how people will know that we are talented for foreign languages if we don't start learning a new language, and if we don't show what we learned to other people. So it's not just about potential, talents and abilities, but it's also about skills, and Mercury is responsible for that, how we acquire new skills, practical skills. In terms of health, Mercury is responsible, of course, for the nervous system, the organs of perception, thyroid gland, the metabolism, the sense, the feeling of time. Also, hands, wrists, general management of all hormones is under the rule of ruler the rule of Mercury. So the essence of Mercury is to make connections, especially concerning a human language that uses symbols. There are, and behind symbols there are objects or concepts. Mercury is all forms of physical connections, all forms of movement and motion. I don't think that I make you discover something totally new, but I'm just repeating, I'm refreshing our memories. Mercury indicates on the way, in astrology of course, Mercury indicates on the way we communicate with the outside world, but above all, it indicates on how we communicate with ourselves. Because before establishing contact with the outside world, before acquiring the ability to apply any human language, whether it's our native language or it's a foreign language that we learned, we learn to understand our own thoughts and feelings. So the ability to understand reality depends, and other people's points of view depends entirely on our ability to explain, decipher, unify our personal perception and our experience of reality, of other people's reality. Mercury is, of course, the balance between the yin and yang energies, because it receives what the sun and the moon gives it. It receives what the sun, the consciousness, the yang energy, masculine energy, and what the moon, the yin energy, the subconsciousness, gives to it, and Mercury unifies these two points of view in a generalized understanding. The position of Mercury in the birth chart in the zodiacal sign will indicate our motivations for communication, the way we prefer to communicate with others, but not only that. It's also the easiest way, the position of Mercury in a sign is the easiest way for us to perceive any new information. It's not about only about the information that we communicate to others, but it's also about how we perceive the information that others try to transmit to us. A strong Mercury, of course, in the signs of its rulership in Gemini, or air mutable sign, and in Virgo, in the earth mutable sign, and also in the air cardinal sign, Libra, even if it's not the position of its rulership, and it's also strong because it's an air element and cardinal cross. And in the case of Mercury, well aspected, okay, of course, all this will undoubtedly become a sign of intelligence, of a high intellect, at least of discernment. But it's impossible to determine the intellectual abilities of the person by analyzing only her Mercury. So relax. If you have tense aspects on your chart between Mercury and other planets, or if it's retrograde, it's not in any case. It's a sign of low, weak intellect. My Mercury is in Capricorn. It has sextile to Uranus, yes, but it has its square to Pluto. So, but as you can see, I have very high intellectual profession. So, well, it's a topic of another video, of course, the deep analysis of the esoteric meaning of the planet Mercury. Now, let's talk about the loop, retrograde loop. Mercury entered the loop, so it means that, in other words, it began its stationary phase on November 14th, and it will come out of the loop on January 11th. And as a part of this 2 months loop, it will be retrograde from December 3rd to 23rd. What do we need to know about the retrograde phase of Mercury in order to use it in the most efficient way? 2 major points. The first one, the loop itself, so this maximum period, and it's in its frame, the retrograde phase, is a change of the cycles of any planet, of the planet. It's the completion of the old and the beginning of a new phase, okay? Sorry, somebody's screaming. It's never a good moment here in Costa Rica. Whether birds or dogs or cars or kids. Sorry. So during the change of any cycle, we are suggested to change something. In the case of the change of the Mercurian cycle, we are suggested to change the models of cooperation or of sharing, of communication with the outside world. I said before in the beginning that the orbital cycle of Mercury is 88 days, but if we consider the retrograde phases that happen every 4th month, the cycle of Mercury is 116 days. It means that in 116 days, Mercury makes the tour, around the Sun. Since it's retrograde every 4th month, we are brought every 4th month to learn new skills and to adapt to new conditions that we found ourselves in, the new conditions of the outside world and the environment. Therefore, during these periods, retrograde phases, all problems, delays and failures in plans and actions occur with only one goal. There is a goal behind. They force us to change, to revise, to modify our models of behavior, and in particular the models of communication, because past models are no longer suitable and usable, efficient. If we leave this phase of the retrograde, of Mercury retrograde, in a productive way, well, we will achieve positive results, which will be, for example, the outside world will communicate in return with us. Changes and renewal that we need will be a part of our lives. Changes and renewal in the Mercurian fields, okay, communication, transport, intellectual activity. The second major point, during the retrograde phase of Mercury, its retrograde phase, Mercury approaches the Earth for a minimum distance, and its speed is also minimal. So that means that all Mercurian affairs, contacts, contracts, travels, exchanges, studies, meetings, everything related to transport, communication, information, commercial and intellectual activities, all this will play a very important role in our lives. And the I would rather say impact of this retrograde phase can be double, favorable or unfavorable. The unfavorable impact of the retrograde phase of Mercury. We can encounter problems, losses and disruptions if, instead of summarizing the work done in the previous cycle, we start something radically new without careful preparation, without finalizing what hasn't been finished yet, and jumping on something new, and especially without careful preparation. In this case, we fail. Favorable scenario: first of all, it's necessary to complete the previous cycle, to finalize or to correct old cases, old files, tasks, and as a result, they will become the foundation, the basis of new beginnings. I would like to attract your attention to another very interesting detail. The next loops of the upcoming year 2018 will also occur in the signs of fire. March, April, Mercury will be retrograde in Aries, and in July, August in Leo. So during these 3 periods, the actual one that we live now and the 2 in the next year, all that concerns self-expression, external activity, realization of external objectives will live renewal, because the retrograde phases will be in fire signs, and fire energy is always introvert energy, which is oriented towards external activity. Now the loop is in Sagittarius, and the energies of the retrograde phase of Mercury in Sagittarius will push us to revisit how we broaden our horizons, how we learn new things, how we gain knowledge. Emphasis will be placed on important global life goals, on travels, long distance ties, connections, dissemination of ideas and concepts. Legal issues, cultural and educational projects will also be in the focus of our attention. Don't forget that Mercury in Sagittarius is in a weak position in the sign of its exile. So there is a risk that we launch projects that go beyond our capacities. We will want to achieve unrealistic goals. This is a typical behavior of Mercury in Sagittarius, which ruler is Jupiter, right? To be too optimistic and to not to evaluate correctly, objectively, our own capacities. Now, if you take the loop, this long period from November 14th until January 11th, 2018, we divide this period in two parts. The first half of the loop lasts from November 14th until December 12th. This is the period that's used to, this is the summary of the previous cycle. Completion processes and all types of results will be particularly visible. Processes and results in Mercurian activities, of course, will be visible from November 14th to December 13th. Many misunderstandings and delays in affairs are expected. We all know that, so don't be surprised and just take it calmly, don't don't oppose yourself to these delays because it's source for nothing. Plans will be broken, of course, meetings cancelled, but all these difficulties will be an indicator of inefficiency of old patterns of behavior and of behavior and interaction with the world and people, and these delays, problems, cancellations will remind us that this is time to adapt to new conditions. It's time for changes and improvements that we must bring to these models of communication and of behavior, especially communication, right? The days of November 26th to December 5th will be particularly difficult because before Mercury starts its retrograde movement on the 3rd of December, it forms the conjunction with Saturn. And this aspect slows down, conjunction with Saturn slows down even more all Mercurian processes. In which sphere of life we can expect movement changes and especially delays, slowing down. Of course, check please in which house of your birth chart this conjunction Mercury-Saturn is projected. I think in my case it's the my midheaven is in Sagittarius, so I think it's in the 10th house. Yes, or I didn't even check it. 11th house, but most probably career and social realization. But in overall, if you consider just the basic symbolism of Saturn, conjunction Mercury-Saturn, changes that will occur during this period may relate to professional affairs because Saturn is the ruler of the 10th house. Long-term projects, real estate, legal issues also will be in the focus of our attention, as well as situations with people who occupy higher social status than us, and also situations with older family members, Saturn, right? So this was about the days from 26th November to December 5th, when Mercury is in conjunction with the Saturn. December 10th, 11th, and 12th. These are the last days of the old cycle of Mercury. This is the deadline for closing and solving the problems of the previous phase, and it's also the time to prepare the ground, just prepare. So the ground for the implementation of new projects. Through what? Of course, through updates and changes of our methods of communication. This is the moment of a deep reboot of the Mercurian system of rational thinking. There is a very high risk of losses, misunderstandings, our own inadequate reactions to different situations. If you summarize the first half of the retrograde loop, so the favorable impact of this first half of the loop from November 14th until December 12th this is the ideal time for completion of old cases, liberation from unnecessary ties, plans, role models, and attitudes. Formulation of new projects in areas where when we already have experience. We can formulate, we can visualize new projects, but in the in the spheres of life which are familiar to us, where we have experience. Finding new ways to solve old problems. You see, when I use the word new, at the same time, immediately after I use the word old. Studies in their pure form. We can deepen our existing knowledge, and we can also, of course, acquire new knowledge. Where we should be careful, the most important sentence of this video: the beginning of completely new projects, in majuscule, big letters, in red. No, nothing completely, radically new. We can start something new only if these projects are a continuation of the previous ones that have already started, and they're lasting until they've been lasting until now. Start something totally new? No, it will be just stopped in the future. You will have to remake everything. Another point of caution: respect of schedules, calendars, and plans. There is a high risk of forgetting, risk of mistakes, confusion in dates, delays in terms. So the risk of this is very big. So it's not only about other people who will forget that we set up an appointment, but it will also characterize our own behavior. So be tolerant, because you will behave the same way. Don't think that somebody else will not suffer from the appointment that you will miss. It will happen to all of us. Another point: the lack or the total absence of understanding on the part of others. We will try to be heard, to be understood, but people will not pay attention, not enough, to what we say, to what we want to tell them. They will not listen to us. This is the typical environment of the retrograde phase of Mercury. The use of transport, means of communication, technologies, they also complete their cycles of existence. So breakdowns and failures, this will be a typical phenomenon during this first phase, okay, from November 14th until December 12th. The second half of the loop lasts from December 13th until January 11th. This is the time of creation of future perspectives and the beginning of a new cycle. Why December 13th? It's like the midpoint of the loop, the middle of the loop. Mercury will be in conjunction with the Sun on December 13th. That's why Mercury starts its cycle. The cycle's Mercury-Sun starts on the December 13th. It's the beginning of the new cycle that corresponds to the implementation of new ideas and plans. Yes, it's retrograde, I know. It's retrograde since December 3rd, but on the 13th it's in conjunction with the Sun. That's why we talk about the beginning of a new cycle, Sun-Mercury, and also this is the beginning of the second half of the loop. You're getting me, right? We will see for sure emergence of new circumstances. We will meet new people will enter our life. We will see ourselves, we will find ourselves in new circumstances, but our businesses, our affairs will gain new directions and fresh perspectives. We should be very attentive to the following thing. What algorithm, oh my God, algorithm, I think it's pronounced this way, models and behavioral programs we will form, we will let enter into our lives, okay? What models and behavioral programs will form the basis of our new life, of a new cycle? Because from December 10th to 16th, the content of the new phase will be determined on the internal plans. Near the exact conjunction of Mercury and Sun on the 13th of January, it may not be entirely obvious to us, to see the new phase of our life regarding to Mercurian activities. The visibility of perspectives will not be perfect, because it's called, when Mercury conjuncts the Sun, it's called burnt Mercury. We're like blind, because of the Sun. So be careful of the 13th, but if you take the larger margin from 14th to 16th, yeah, this is the time of visualization of new behavioral models. And now, Mercury is retrograde until, yes, I know, since the 3rd of December, but I just spoke about the 13th of December, which is the conjunction Mercury-Sun. Now, since this conjunction Mercury-Sun, since the 13th of December until the 23rd, Mercury is retrograde, and there are of course delays and slowdowns in business and affairs, but for different reasons that they were the part of our lives. I mean, delays and obstacles during the first half of the loop. Now we act in new circumstances, in new environment, in new way, in new conditions, and this affects the speed of our actions. It's like if you use the computer for 10 years and suddenly you change, you buy a new model. Of course, it's familiar to you. The computer is familiar, but you are not familiar with this model. So not yet. You're not sure where to find different icons. So you don't work as fast as you've been working with the old computer. Okay. December 20th until 26th, the days near the close to the day when Mercury turns to the direct movement on the 23rd, right, but plus minus 3 days. Its speed is minimal because it's a stationary phase, right? All the decisions, beginnings, and enterprises realized during these days from December 20 to 26 will become in the future a part of our reality and will determine many scenarios of our life. These days of the stationary phase of Mercury coincide with what? With the ingression of Saturn into Capricorn on the 19th of December. All the beginnings of these days will carry in themselves a huge, powerful charge of development, evolution, and continuation, because these new projects and enterprises will be related because of the background aspect, the ingression of Saturn into Capricorn, to the distant horizons and the high summits that we will aim at, to the large-scale objectives that we will fix. So this is the perfect moment to put down all these long-term projects that we want to realize. Saturn, the ingression of Saturn and Capricorn will help us in that, and I will prepare separate, as promised, separate video about Saturn and Capricorn like in a couple of days. Now, from December 23rd to January 11th, Mercury is already direct, and it passes the last section of the loop. It's still slow, it left its stationary phase, but starting from the 11th of January, it will transit in its normal speed. So this is the moment of maximum attention that must be given to new trends, approaches, algorithms, and models as they will gradually integrate into our lives. After January 11th, the development of these new approaches, trends, and models of behavior will happen, will happen by inertia, and will not depend on our conscious control. So we have to control what models we integrate, what models of behavior we accept, what new models. While when we still can maybe correct, something, modify. After January 11th, they will be the part of our lives, and we won't be able to get rid of them until the next retrograde phase of Mercury in 4 months. So to summarize, the second half of the loop from November 14th, December 14th until January 11th. Favorable impact. What is the time is ideal for what? To create new projects, to make new plans, to conclude agreements, and to print all this in the reality. It's not just about putting down things, but to realize these projects and plans in very concrete everyday life situations. Implementation. To apply actively new approaches, skills, knowledge, strategies to solving old problems, to solving all problems, but especially old problems, new approaches, skills. Okay, we have to apply them to expand horizons through new connections, ties, interests, to explore new spheres and areas of life, to explore new things and make them be the part of your new life. To learn new things, to apply new knowledge also. Here the key word is new. We don't look backward anymore. Still, the caution is needed. Where? I remind you that in the beginning of the second period of the loop, from December, you remember, 13th to the 16th, there is a high probability of errors because the adaptation communication systems are going through a restart. This is the day of the middle point of the loop, right? And the day of the conjunction Mercury Sun on the 30th of December. That's why there is this high risk of errors. And the last thing, don't try to engage yourself in too many new obligations, in new activities. Do not try to do the impossible, because it's like when you just got your driving license, you are a beginner. Yes, you passed the exams, theory and practice, but you are still freshly arrived on the highway or in the downtown, and you suddenly you want to participate in a car race. Nobody will do that. We need experience in any new activity. Okay, so slowly, smoothly. Don't get crazy. You need some time. At least 1 month to use new models of behavior and communication with the outside world. I hope this information was useful. I wish you a lot of luck to all of you, a lot of patience, and I will talk to you very soon in another video about the ingression of Saturn in Capricorn, and of course the next week weekly horoscope analysis of the weekly transits. Thank you for your time, for your attention. See you very soon. Bye bye.